to so-called trends and the world. This is Six Towns Radio.
It is Terry Bossons for Friday. Bossons about. Thanks a lot to Annabelle. She'll be back next Friday at 1 with the weekend warm-up. But yes, so much to talk about this afternoon. Today, of course, is National Women's Day. We'll be talking about that after 4 o'clock. It's also National Pie Week this week. And I've just had a tray of Hollands pies delivered to the studio. So maybe we'll be talking pies in the next hour as well. But first of all, I want to introduce you to our special guest this afternoon. We've been playing Metroland as record of the week a couple of weeks ago, and joining us in the studio we've got Andy McCluskey from OMD. How are you doing? You okay?
I'm very good, Terry. How are you today?
Not bad at all. It's been a bit of a manic one. You might be able to see on my forehead there, I got attacked by my cat this morning. And then
yes, I did notice the yes.
So don't think I'm rough when you've walked to the studio.
Oh, no.
What
I'm just surprised you haven't actually taken the knife out of your head yet. I'm surprised that the cat could carry a knife, but there you go.
He's made a right mess. I just had my hair cut as well. I used to be able to cover that, but he doesn't anymore. But yeah, it's lovely to have you down. Metroland was a single of the week a couple of weeks ago, and since then we've had all the different remixes dropped off. There's Manhattan Clique and a few others. So who decided who was going to do the remixes? Was that something you were hands-on with?
To a large degree, yes. I mean, actually, it's quite difficult because so many people wanted to do remixes, and we were trying to find people who would do so we didn't want to have 50 remixes, so we thought we'd try and go for 4 or 5 and get them all different to each other. And the one thing I like about the remixes we've got is they haven't just sort of taken half a second of the lyric and gratuitously then thrown everything else away, and they're just going it's like they've actually completely reworked the song beautifully in a completely different style, but it's still the same song. Yes,
and of course it's from the upcoming album English Electric. Was it easy to choose a song to put out first?
It was difficult to the degree that there's actually probably 3 or 4 songs on there that are more obvious, instant catchy singles than Metroland. But we decided we were kind of going to make a statement. I mean, Metroland is a beautiful song. It has a great melody and it bangs along. But it was more of a statement, really. It's kind of like really reclaiming our kind of electronic roots. But I mean, the song is great, and obviously the original version is 7.5 minutes. It's almost like the manifesto track on the album, but we don't expect too many radio stations to play the full 7.5 minutes.
Now and again, we might stick it on. But yeah, we started off the show with Messages, which was, of course, your first hit single all them years ago. And I think you stayed true to your sound with Metroland, because we just recently had Depeche Mode's new song dropped off, and they've gone through the motions, haven't they? In the late 80s they went with the American sound because they played in America quite a lot and they toured there extensively, and they did change it, but you stayed true to your electronic roots, which I'm quite proud of.
Well, thank you. I mean, to be honest, we did the same thing in the 80s as well. We got a bit more conventional and slightly more American and mainstream sounding for various reasons. Some of them were completely unconscious, actually. People sometimes think you do things for reasons and you're not actually aware of why you're doing it. But when we decided to get back together a few years ago, it was really important to us that actually, if we're going to dare to be stupid enough to make a new record, that we're going to do it, one, well, but two, we are fortunate that we have a distinctive sound. We have a recognisable sound, and so you have to be true to yourself. You have to speak in the language that you invented for yourself with the kind of musical colour palette that is yours. But not become a pastiche. That's the balancing act. Not to just be a tribute act to yourself and just do a sort of pale copy of what you used to sound like. So we're trying to sort of strike that balance between sounding like Orchestral Moves in the Dark, but actually moving forward and using new production techniques and sounds and things. Yes, because
obviously you sit alongside some of the people who might have taken you and OMD as some sort of, definitely Metronomy, people like the XX, they would have listened to OMD, they would listen to old Depeche Mode, they would listen to Kraftwerk, so they would take you on as, maybe the people to go to. I do like it, and I'm going to play Metroland right now, and then we're going to take some listeners' questions. I've had a few in, which I won't get to, so we'll listen to this, and then we're back with Andy McCluskey. So yeah, former record of the week, Metroland, Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark. And I'm joined this afternoon by Andy McCluskey, who's very influential, is the word I was looking for before the song. It's been a long day. It has.
It has, yes. Don't worry about it. So, it's Friday.
Yes.
It's over soon. You can put your feet up.
I've got my eye on the pies, that's what it is. But, yes, so you've been back together touring since 2006, wasn't it?
Yep.
So how long have you been writing new material for?
Well, we had a new album out at the end of 2010 called History of Modern that did very well indeed. In fact, it probably got the best collection of journalist reviews we've ever had in our lives.
Yeah.
And it sold really well. But, one of the things about us is we're a strange band. It's not good enough to just write good songs. I know that sounds stupid, but we... and a lot of our listeners, for people who've grown up with us, expect a certain conceptual, intellectual element. It's like, it's all very well having a good melody and something you can dance to and lyrics, but we need something challenging. We need a song about an oil refinery or some aeroplane that dropped an atom bomb or some metaphor for some, I don't know. So we challenged ourselves to see if we could do even better. Yeah. And we've spent 2 solid years working on this record. We have not just been sitting in our ivory towers, tickling ourselves, going, "Oh, we're so influential, how lucky we are." No, so we've ground it out, making this new record, English Electric. And so far, it's early days yet, but so far the reviews of this seem to be even better than its predecessor. Yes,
well, I'd heard the last album, and I knew you were working on new stuff. But this new album... it's going to be so great when we see it out, because you are putting physical copies out, aren't you?
Yes, we are, yes. It's not just download. There's vinyl and the CD.
Yeah, there's got to be. There really has got to be. One thing I mentioned off mic to you was picking up, it was the Joan of Arc single with the fantastic artwork. Who did the artwork on that?
Peter Saville, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Always was in those days.
Yes, well, it's just so different now to just like download a song and, just own it that way and put it on your iPod or your MP3 player, but to have that artwork, and you've brought that back a little bit, because I've noticed the artwork on the new album and everything.
Well, I mean, the artwork on the new album, you're kind of trying to strike a balance, because that it's got to look bold in a tiny little 1 centimetre square icon, or on iTunes or something, but also it does have to blow up, because we're anticipating selling quite a lot of the full 12-inch heavy vinyl record, which has got, a sleeve that has die-cut holes in it, so the inner liner can be seen through the outer liner, proper the way several of our early albums were like that. And does it make us old that we just like a real object? No, actually, a lot of young people collect vinyl as well, don't they?
Yeah, but I bet a lot of the stuff that was put out then, I know New Order was the famous case study of it costing more than the actual was worth.
Oh, we've had that. Well, of course, their sleeve designer was ours as well, Peter Saville, and all those lovely die-cut holes in our sleeves. We discovered 2 words. When we started to find out that we're getting no royalties, we discovered the words packaging deduction, and we were paying for the fabulous sleeve, so we weren't getting any money out of it. Although I suppose I have to say, if you remember our first album with all the sort of die-cut holes in it, I'm sure 50% of those were bought by people who just went, "Oh, I like the sleeve. Don't know what's inside it, but I'll have the sleeve."
Probably a lot of Peter Saville fans just bought it.
Yes.
When we said that you were coming down, a lot of our presenters have mentioned buying certain pieces of your work, and one thing that I liked was Alan Maider's A Glory Boy Show mentioned, all you put on the comment was red frame, white light, and of course refers to the telephone box. And that telephone box had a bit of an update, didn't it, a few years ago? A fan did he do something with the council? Did he?
Yeah,
it?
That's right. There was going to be a fan gathering in Liverpool, and they were going to go to sites that were associated with us. And one of the sites was the telephone box in Mells, where Paul Humphreys and I grew up. Because I didn't have a telephone at my house when I was with my parents, so I had to use this telephone box. Was my link to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And when they told the council that there was going to be a busload of people from all over the world coming to take photographs of this, surprise, it got a brand new coat of paint. It's all shiny and red again. It's looking a bit faded again now, to be honest, so I'll have to get another coach load in.
Yeah. Maybe get Peter Saville on the case. But yeah, that is a lovely story. That phone box was down the road from a pub as well, where you used to meet up.
Yeah, just across the road from the Railway Inn pub in Mells, and right on the corner of the United Reformed Church, St Andrews, where we used to play. We used to play concerts in that hall as well. So it's got a lot of memories. In fact, actually, you just played Messages, right?
Yes.
That was the phone box. I went to the phone box to phone our manager to find out how it was doing in the chart, and that was the phone box I was in when he told me we'd finally entered the top 20. And I put the phone down. I was running round to Paul's house, and he was coming across the road. So there we were, standing outside 6323003, jumping up and down like a pair of schoolboys, going, "Oh, we're in the top 20!" right by the telephone box.
And when was the last time you used a telephone in a telephone box?
Do you know what the funny thing is actually last Friday there was a guy came over from the New York Times, no less, to do a piece about us, and he said, I'd really like to get a feel for the area, can you show me where you grew up and everything. So we actually, in my car, we were sat outside the telephone box, and he said, does it still work? Well, let's dial it and find out.
And it did.
Somebody
said to me this morning, they just had Yellow Pages delivered. And who uses Yellow Pages? Who needs the Yellow Pages anymore?
Yeah, isn't it all online?
It's a shame. But you had to use a phone in a phone box, or if you had one at home. None of this mobile malarkey, you just had to go out and find a phone box if you needed to make that call. And yeah, in 1980, you probably did. I'm going to do an ad break, and then we're going to come back with a couple more questions, because I have been inundated.
Yep, no problem. Let's do as many as we can.
Okay, let's do that.
Six Towns Radio.
Yes, Bossons about for a Friday, and getting ready for the weekend, and we are joined in the by Andy McCluskey this afternoon. One of the fans of yours has been in touch. He sent so many questions. I went through them with a fine-tooth comb. I was trying to find which ones we should use.
The ones you can mention on air, yeah.
There's just so many, but one of the great things he put, attention to detail that he has with these questions are fantastic. But what did the band think of Paul Humphreys' sped-up vocals for Souvenir?
Yeah, the problem that we had was that we tended in the past to write songs, in the studio, and then when they got to being single, you go, oh, is it a bit slow? Well, let's speed it up. And so Souvenir is really almost a semitone higher in pitch than it was recorded, because we sped it up. It just sounds young and cute.
That's fantastic. He also asked you, what was it like working with Carl Bartos?
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I mean,
big influence to you, wasn't
it? Obviously, he was from the band Kraftwerk, and 1991, actually, the Sugar Tax album, I did a cover version of Neon Lights, and I wanted to get permission. But no, Ralph and Florian didn't. They never respond. But I got a fax. Remember faxes?
Yeah.
Talking about the ways we communicate these. I got a fax from Carl Bartos, which was like, getting a message from God. And he said, oh, I've left Kraftwerk. Would you like to do some music sometime? I was like, yeah, just a bit. And so I went to Dusseldorf, and so I insisted, you've got to take me to show me the Kling Klang studio, so I can kiss the ground outside. And we wrote a song called Kissing the Machine that went on to his Electric Music album 20 years ago. And when Paul and I were doing the new album, I said, the kind of conceptually, there's this song I did with Carl that, not that the whole world hasn't heard because the album wasn't that widely available. I said, would you think about maybe utilising it? And he said, okay, well, let's update it. So basically Paul threw everything away and we completely re-recorded it. So And then, of course, Paul just happens to live with a lady called Claudia Brucken, who was the lead singer of Propaganda. So we got her to be the voice of the machine. So we've got Bartos, McCluskey, Humphreys and Brucken in this kind of Anglo-Deutsch Freundschaft thing going on with a brand new version of Kissing the Machine. But Carl's lovely. It was wonderful to work with. And do you know what? Excuse me. I sound like a terrible name dropper, international jet setter. I was just in Germany this week, and I was in a radio station in Berlin, and I walked in, and he's got a new album out. I was like, oh my God, I hadn't seen him for 15 years. Like, Carl, Andy, right? It's great.
Oh, fantastic. Because they were pioneers of the electric music scene and influenced loads of bands in the UK. And
including us, absolutely us, yeah.
Yeah, and quite a lot. Would you like to be pigeonholed under that new romantic scene?
No. Anything but new romantic.
Yes,
we were serious northern boys who, had short hair. We were not. We specifically tried to have no image, no fancy frilly shirts for us, no kilts, none of that nonsense. No. We short hair, and we tried to have a non-image. So we decided to have white shirt, black tie. Looked like boring bank clerk was what we were trying to achieve. To have no look at all, we were deadly serious. Just the music, no fashion statement. And then of course you have a couple of hits, and you stand on stage, and the whole front row is impressionable 17-year-old boys in white shirts and black ties. And we're like, no, you don't get it, lads. This is a non-fashion statement. Don't copy us.
Well, the punk scene had ended. That was the next scene that came along. So I suppose when you first went out playing gigs, a lot of people thought, what are these guys doing?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was... People didn't get it at all. I mean... And it wasn't helped by the fact there was just two of us with the tape recorder on the stage. And the only reason we had a tape recorder was because even our best friends thought that what we were doing was horrible. They wouldn't play with us. So one of whom is our drummer for the last 30 years, who just changed his tune when we signed a record contract. But mentioning no names, Malcolm Holmes. But yeah, it was, there was huge resistance to it. This is not music. This shouldn't do that. I mean, the musicians' union were against bands that didn't have guitars and play real, in inverted commas, instruments, and they had a campaign, keep music live. And in fact, their magazine used to get big round stickers that you could take and stick. There was a campaign slogan. So we stuck these big round "Keep Music Live" stickers on the spools of the tape recorder. Put it on stage. Keep music live. Yeah. Here's the tape recorder.
I want to play the Gay because it was your biggest hit of that time, and also it was used in the Olympic opening ceremony, wasn't it?
How cool was that? I was blown away.
Yeah.
Finally, my 16-year-old son went, looked at me like, you might actually be cool after all.
Did you know about it?
I had been told they were thinking about it. I honestly didn't think they were going to use it. You know what it's like in the music industry. You never believe anything until it's actually happened.
Yeah, of course.
So I was optimistic, but yeah, it was great. And it was so cool that it wasn't even just in an 80s section. It was right at the top of the whole musical thing. I mean, my phone nearly exploded within 10 seconds. I had the world phoning me and texting me like, oh my God. It was... Yeah, it was really very flattering to think that, 1 billion people heard that. I was concerned that the Japanese might not parade afterwards, but fortunately they didn't play any lyrics. So
one of the things about that song, because I was probably about 9 or 10 when it came out, and I didn't understand what it was about. I didn't understand the politics of it, and I've danced to it at the school disco not knowing what it was, and I suppose a lot of people did. It was one of those things.
No, it was kind of sort of surreptitious. I mean, we always wanted to do songs about things that we considered to be interesting. The whole ethos was we're not here to just sing songs about ooh baby blah blah blah, I love you, you don't love me. Specifically we wanted to write about what we thought was more interesting than that. But at the same time, writing a pop song about the plane that dropped the atom bomb on Hiroshima, you don't just want it to be a catalogue of the events of the actual exercise of the day. So you're trying to twist it into sort of metaphors. And so I'm not surprised that, your 9-year-old self had no idea that, is mother proud of little boy today? You were like, I wonder if she is. I don't know. But, the reality is that was like a triple meaning line because the pilot named the plane after his mother and the bomb was codenamed Little Boy. So I thought I was terribly clever with that line.
See, I had an older brother who was 8 years older than me, so he was 18 at the time, 19, and I used to walk past his bedroom door and hear this music coming out. It'd be Heaven 17 one day, Human League, and then one day I heard some of your music and talking to you about it, even talking to you about it now, it was a great movement at that time. It really was. I'll take my hat off to you and we'll play the game right now.
Thank you.
My 9-year-old self was dancing along to that, not knowing its meaning. My 40-year-old self there was thinking,
Now
yes.
you know. Now you know.
Now I know. We've mentioned some of the people who've sent questions in this afternoon. I want you, first of all, just to say hello to Sam.
Hi, Sam.
Sam, why don't you say hello to her this afternoon? But Chris has got some brilliant questions for you. First of all, the one, we were just talking about this off mic, but he said... do you think, after the release of Electricity, that you should have stayed with Factory Records?
The whole point was that Factory Records, Tony Wilson said to us, he was the first person to say, you are the future of pop music, which frankly we were really upset about, because how dare you call us pop? And he said, no, I want to release a record, but we're not big enough to get you on top of the pops. So we'll use it as a demo. So it was always the idea that we would stay... we would go from Factory rather, and that is what happened. I mean, we didn't think we were going to sell any records on Factory or anywhere else. We were just like, whatever. At least we get to make a record. So, had we stayed on Factory, would we have stuck to our kind of more experimental ethos through the years? Possibly. You just never know. We managed to continue to work with Peter Saville, which was great.
Yeah, okay. Another question, not from Chris, was you formed Atomic Kitten, a bit of a music Svengali as well as everything else. Have you been watching this thing where they've brought them all back?
Yeah, I watched on the kind of whatever it is, the ITV iPlayer thing.
Yes.
I saw the first episode. I haven't seen any since. I love those girls. They're kind of like my daughters, really. I mean, I can't believe they're all 30, 31 now. They were all like 16, 17 when I first met them. I love them to bits. I feel like their dad, to be honest. I hope they're having fun. I hope they're earning a few bob out of it. Unfortunately, I lost my contact with them after the first album. Their manager and the record company basically decided I was surplus to requirements and ripped up the contract. And I wasn't allowed to talk to any of them for 4 years other than through lawyers. So I'm glad that they're still hopefully having fun, and I wish them all the best. They're really nice. I know people, go, so and so on Trainwreck TV, but I just think they're wonderful people. I really like them.
Is that something you'd do again?
No. I tell you, I'd been in the music industry for 18 years and I thought I understood it. Oh, how deluded I was. I mean, I don't know how we got this band successful, the Atomic Kitten, but it was great fun. It was like kind of manga, cartoon, nuttiness, pop. It was wonderful fun for a couple of years until they started selling records, and then all the sharks started circling. But what a dirty business. I mean, I can remember basically the rot set in when their record company, when finally Whole Again was a hit, which we bluffed them into. They were going to drop them. And we said, well, give it to me, we're going to release it ourselves. And they went, ooh. So, and I had a stand-up row with the head of their record company after Whole Again had been number one. And he said, I don't like your new direction. I said, well, it's not a new direction. It's just, keep variety keeps it alive, you know. He said, no, we've got a formula. I'm like, no, this band doesn't have a formula. This, Whole Again was not a formula. It was totally unlike any other pop group song. That's why it was a hit. No, I want Whole Again, and more effing Whole Again was the quote, and that was where I realised that it was over, for me at least, working with them.
Okay. Another question we've had is, what is your favourite song to perform live?
I got to admit that I do always look forward to playing some of the really big hits like Souvenir or Maid of Orleans or Enola Gay, Electricity, because I just know the crowd's going to go nuts. There's nothing more rewarding than having a crowd who love you.
Yeah, but you've got so many hits, it must be difficult to pick which ones, because if you go out playing the new album, obviously you want to fit all that in as well, but pepper it with all these chart hits that you had.
Well, yeah, it's a nice dilemma to have, though, isn't it?
Definitely.
When we play in May this year, we will be playing. Well, actually, so end of April we're in Birmingham, and the rest of the gigs are into May. But we'll probably play about 5 of the new album, because we are aware that not everybody wants to hear new songs. There's a few weirdos out there just want to hear the B-sides and things like that, but they're probably the people who've been giving you the questions. Hi everybody. And we do always try to do something a bit interesting for the kind of aficionados, but the reality is 80-90% of the audience would feel pretty shortchanged if we didn't play at least 10 hit singles.
Yes,
because we can. And we should.
I had a friend who went and watched Bob Dylan and he didn't even pick the guitar up. It's...
Mind you, we used to get booed for picking up an electric guitar, so you can't please everybody, can
no,
you?
You definitely can't, but at least you haven't gone down these nostalgic weekends route, where OMD alongside all the other bands of the same era.
We consciously avoided those because we thought once you start doing that, then people will only come and see you if you're also on with all the other artists. Now, listen, I've got nothing against those. I understand why people think it's great value for money. They just get to hear all their favourite hits and they relive their youth, and that's great fun. But we don't want to be just solely associated with that. Having said that, of course, we headlined the Rewind Festival last year, but that was because I think we'd already established ourselves.
Of course, yeah.
And we're headlining Rewind in Scotland this year as well. So, I think now that we've established that we can stand on our own 2 feet, we don't mind indulging in a touch of nostalgia.
You've said you're a bit of a geek. You mentioned
it's true. I can't deny it.
So, what do you get up to when you're not writing or performing?
I can't tell you in public. I'll get arrested. Now the thing is, now that I'm a father, I've had to sort of lay aside some of the things I want to do because you have to do things with your kids, which I enjoy doing actually. And I learned quite a lot from my kids, actually. In fact, my daughter introduced me to a whole new form of music that I'd never heard of before last year, called Japanese Vocaloid music, which, there's something fun to learn. But
it's a whole new show, that.
Yeah. Well, this will give you some idea. The first few times we went to Germany, Paul and I would make a point after the sound check or getting up early before we left town, and we'd go down to the Hauptbahnhof and just stand there and watch the trains come and go. And we weren't taking numbers. We weren't quite in our anoraks on the end of the platform with a can of soup, with a thermos of soup. But that's kind of what we did. I went to a fancy dress party, an 80s fancy dress party. I said, I've come as a washed-up pop star, will I do? Somebody said, hey, I've got something for you. Come on, let's see if these questions still hold true. Smash Hits, 1981. I'm like, oh, no. He said, what is your favourite sound in the whole world? I said, I know, it's still the same thing. It's a Merlin engine in a Spitfire. So, yes, I'm still a geek.
Connection there to Stoke, the Spitfire as well. You
go.
Mentioned as well you collect art.
Yes, I'm a really huge fan of sort of post-war northern artists. Most of them are sort of from sort of Manchester and Lancashire, but I've just recently become a huge fan of a guy from the Potteries. And unfortunately, I don't have time today to go to the Potteries Museum because a guy called Maurice Wade.
Well, give me your wallet, I'll go.
You go. Go on. I don't think the Potteries Museum is going to sell them to you, but amazing. Anybody who knows me and my kind of dark melancholy, these paintings are basically black, white and grey of local scenes. So anybody who wants to do themselves a favour and see some beautiful melancholy paintings, Google Maurice Wade. Yeah. Okay,
we'll get people to do that. One more thing, because I know you've got to shoot off in a minute, but I want to talk about the tour, and especially the US tour, because you featured in a John Hughes film, so you have got quite a big following up there anyway, and that is still there. How many dates are you playing in the US?
We've split the tour into two halves. We were intending to go to America in the second half of the year, but then the pesky Americans came along and offered us this incredibly cool festival called Coachella, in which there's two weekends in the middle of April. So when we were supposed to be doing a nice leisurely saunter around the country, going to real ale pubs and doing the odd radio interview, we've had to cram it all into a couple of days this week, and we're going to America in April, but then we'll be back in July. But we hadn't played America for 20 years, so it was amazing to have gone back in 2011. We finally went back there, and it was great. It was great. I mean, Americans, they're so emotionally melodramatic, emotionally incontinent, basically. So when they love you, they gush.
Good stuff. We're going to leave with a question from Chris. It's going to have to be done because he's put so many. I'll pick this one. Have you heard the musical box version of Electricity performed by Hannah Peel?
I have not only heard it, I have had it performed in person by Hannah Peel, cranking her own little music box. And that's not a euphemism, by the way. And in fact, we are supported on the UK tour by John Fox and the Maths. And who is in the Maths? Hannah Peel.
There you go. What a perfect way to end a brilliant conversation. We only expected to have you for 5 minutes. We squeezed every little bit we could out of you. Is that okay?
Yes, I think I'm completely squeezed now.
I hope you've enjoyed it.
It's been great. Thank you very much for having me in.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks to Andy McCluskey. I'm going to play Talking Loud and Clear, but we've still got loads of stuff to come between now and 5, including National Pie Week. I might offer you a pie. We've got so many.
I'll take one home.
Have you got a favourite flavour of pie?
I do like a good meat and potato pie.
Okay, well, we'll see if we've got your meat and potato Hollands pie.
Marvellous.
Thank you, Andy.
Cheers, Terry.